Hi there. I'm glad to welcome you to my channel, World of Stories. I have a lot of interesting life stories that I want to share with you. Enjoy listening.
It was Sunday evening. Miranda finished washing the dishes, wiped the stove, and took a breath. Well, that's it, she could go and iron her husband's shirt for tomorrow. Kevin was a prominent editor at a well-known magazine in town. He always had to look impeccable. Miranda wasn't bothered at all by the fact that under his supervision worked 24 attractive women, one after another, most of them unmarried. Kevin loved only her. She ironed the sleeves of the shirt and reminisced. They met at a college party. Miranda was in her 5th year at the journalism faculty. Together with her friend, they happened to find themselves in a company celebrating some kind of holiday, something like All Saints' Day, in general, an unclear gathering. But everyone was truly having fun. A small nightclub, a cheerful program. At some point, Miranda noticed a guy she didn't know looking at her. She immediately told her friend about it. "Oh. That's Simon," Andrea exclaimed in surprise. "Kevin Simon himself is having fun with us." "Andrea, enlighten me, who is this Simon?" Miranda raised her eyebrows in confusion. "Well, you're such a country girl," her friend laughed. "That's Kevin Simon, the journalist." "Oh God, remember his articles in the newspaper? Our lecturer used to refer to his headlines as examples." "Oh, that same Simon," Miranda recalled and stared at the man with interest. He noticed her gaze and immediately approached them. He came over, smiled, invited her to dance, and everything started spinning for them from that evening. At first, Miranda was interested in talking to him purely from a professional standpoint. Kevin was indeed a very good journalist. He provided a lot of practical and clear advice on conducting interviews and gathering news material. And then Miranda's heart started beating anxiously. She realized she had fallen head over heels in love with Kevin, and, moreover, his shining eyes gave away his obvious interest in Miranda. A couple of months later, Kevin introduced the girl to his mother. Miss Caroline was a tough, sharp woman who looked at people evaluative, as if scanning them with an X-ray. During their first meeting, she mostly remained silent, occasionally asking Miranda questions about her parents, education, and living arrangements. But Miranda successfully passed this peculiar interview. Of course, when she heard that Miranda's parents had died in a plane crash, the woman shook her head and pursed her lips. But upon understanding that it happened when the girl was already in university, she even sighed sympathetically. And when she learned that Miranda lived in a 3-bedroom apartment in the city center, she smiled approvingly. A nice and educated girl. "Do you think, my dear, that you can compete with my son?" Miss Caroline asked just in case. "Oh, no," Miranda laughed. "I'm not competing with Kevin, especially since I'm more interested in photojournalism." Well, the woman nodded. After their meeting, Miranda had mixed feelings. On one hand, she had simply conversed with Miss Caroline, but on the other hand, it felt like she had taken an exam and passed. "Oh, my mother," Kevin laughed later when they were strolling through the city at night. "Did you tremble in front of her like a schoolgirl?" "Well, maybe a little," Miranda admitted. "I forgot to mention that she used to be a judge. She retired 2 years ago." "You should have warned me," she smiled. "But oh Vivian, I liked your mother. It's clear that she loves her son very much." "Yes, she won't easily hand over her treasure to just anyone," Kevin chuckled. "But she liked you, that's for sure. You'll see, you'll become friends." However, Miranda and Miss Caroline never became friends. But at their wedding, the woman became somewhat softer and even referred to Miranda as, "my little daughter," just once. There was also a moment when she almost spoke to the girl in a motherly manner, but Miranda didn't want to dwell on that now. Miranda and Kevin got married right after she graduated from university, and then she joined the magazine as a photojournalist. The best and most renowned magazine. Kevin jokingly said at the time that his wife had outshined him, and a few months later, he joined the same magazine as well, initially as an art editor, but within a year, he was appointed as the chief by the publishing company's management. Working under her husband's leadership was easy for Miranda. They would commute to the office together, return home, and their conversations at home revolved solely around work. It didn't bother them, on the contrary, they always had something to talk about and debate. No, they never argued, they simply engaged in discussions. Miranda turned out to be a competent journalist. However, everything changed when the doctor told her to make a choice during her 3rd month of pregnancy. Pregnancy is progressing difficultly, and there's a risk of miscarriage. You need to be hospitalized and constantly under our observation, the doctor announced during one of her appointments. How am I supposed to do that? Miranda was taken aback. I have work to do. We have a photo shoot scheduled for tomorrow and a session with a prominent benefactor at the children's home in the capital in a week. The children already know that the magazine will come to photograph them. Then you have to choose either your child or momentary impressions of other people's children, the doctor replied. My child, Miranda decided. She understood that Kevin would be unhappy, but ultimately it was his child too. Surprisingly, Kevin took the news calmly and even scolded her for doubting. We'll find someone else to go, silly, he said. At least your friend Andrea. Her friend Andrea also worked for the same magazine. Miranda managed to arrange for her to take over when Kevin became the chief editor. There was nothing to worry about. She felt a little disappointed that she was missing out on such significant projects, but her child came first. In the hospital, she had to lie down almost constantly, and at times it became unbearable. However, she knew why she was enduring all this, for the sake of their little daughter. The doctors told her that she and Kevin would have a girl. How much longer do I have to stay here, she would ask the doctors. Let me go home, even just for a week. I miss my husband. They would simply shrug their shoulders. What husband? By the 20th week, Miranda was prohibited from getting up altogether, she had to stay lying down. It felt as if she wasn't disabled, yet she couldn't stand up. She would have gone crazy if Kevin didn't visit her after work, if Miss Caroline didn't occasionally come, and if Andrea didn't drop by. They all firmly reassured her in unison. Miranda is amazing, a resilient little soldier. However, at 22 weeks, despite all the efforts of the doctors and Miranda's endurance, the irreparable happened. She started bleeding. An emergency cesarean section had to be performed. Miranda would never forget that moment when she lay on the table under epidural anesthesia, and the doctors were digging into her abdomen, then they pulled out something small, tiny. Is she alive? Miranda whispered, realizing that the nurse was taking her baby girl somewhere. Why isn't she crying? Because she's still very small, the surgeon replied. She's alive, don't worry. They'll put her in the incubator, and she'll continue to grow there. Just lie still. After the operation, Miranda slept for almost a day, and when she regained consciousness and attempted to get up, she immediately screamed in pain. A nurse rushed in and scolded her. Why are you jumping around like a goat? What if your stitches come apart? I wanted to know how my little daughter is, Miranda whispered tearfully. Honestly, she's in critical condition. Well, how could she not be when she was born weighing 700 grams, severely premature, but alive? Alive? Calm down, we have excellent doctors in the premature baby unit, they're taking care of your daughter. And Kevin, does Kevin know? Kevin, your husband? He knows. He was eager to see you today, but he wasn't allowed in. Right now, visiting isn't a priority for you. He'll come tomorrow evening. Oh, my dear, how he loves you. He was so worried about you and your daughter. Don't worry, everything will work out, you'll see. The next day, Kevin came to Miranda, but not alone, he brought his mother along. Miss Caroline looked gloomy, only sighing and shaking her head. Kevin reassured Miranda, saying that their daughter would definitely pull through. Let's name her Vivian, Miranda whispered, wiping away her tears. But you wanted to name her Julia, after your mother, Kevin was surprised. No, Vivian, Miranda firmly replied. Vivian. Kevin, I also thought we should have her baptized. They say we can invite a priest here. All right, Kevin shrugged. No, absolutely not. Miss Caroline finally spoke up. What kind of baptism can there be now? The child is severely premature, you can't even go near her to avoid disturbing her, and you want to summon a priest. Why? Both of you are educated people, you should understand that it's a huge risk. The risk is enormous in terms of whether this child will even be viable. Just think about it, she weighs only half a kilogram. It's unbelievable. Actually, it's not half a kilogram, but 700 grams, Miranda objected. A small difference. She fits in the palm of your hand. Miranda, think about what kind of child she will be, even if she survives. She could be blind, deaf, or have cerebral palsy. I can't even imagine it. Children, stop going mad, you don't need this child. It's better to write a refusal and be done with it. Miranda and Kevin stared at their mother in horror. What was she saying? She was their child. She's my daughter, Miranda replied quietly but firmly. And I will take her no matter what. Mom, are you really saying such things? Kevin murmured. How can you? Our daughter is fighting for her life, and you. Oh, forgive me, Miss Caroline snapped out of it. I don't know what I'm saying. Yes, let's hope, let's hope. Okay, Kevin, let's go. They were already at the exit when Miranda called out to her husband. Kevin, find out about the priest on duty, pay for whatever is needed there. Of course, my dear, don't worry. I'll take care of everything, her husband nodded in response. They left, and Miranda sank into darkness, she was very tired. The next day, Kevin couldn't come to see her, he said he had a lot of work, and they didn't allow him to visit Vivian yet, although they promised they would. Miranda slowly left her ward. She decided to inquire about the priest herself. Yes, the nurse nodded but strangely avoided eye contact. We will invite the priest soon, but for now, go and rest. The next morning, she learned the most dreadful news, a doctor came and said that her daughter's heart had stopped. It was expected, given her very low weight, only 22 weeks. Her organs weren't fully formed, he explained. It happens. I'm sorry, after all, we're not gods. Miranda could only cry. Yes, she understood everything and hoped until the very end that her daughter would survive, but the miracle didn't happen. Her heart was torn apart with pain when she realized that she never saw her daughter alive, they didn't let her. Only then, in the operating room, she vaguely remembered the nurse taking away a tiny red bundle. Her precious girl. She never held her to her chest, and she would never be able to do so. They didn't show her the lifeless body either. The doctors said that Miranda couldn't see it. Pain and emptiness tore her apart from within. Miranda spent the remaining days in the hospital in a fog, lying down, sleeping. Kevin and Miss Caroline would come to visit. They were genuinely grieving too. Miranda was surprised by how compassionate and attentive her mother-in-law could be. My dear, everything will work out, she would say, stroking Miranda's head. She spoke just like a mother. And now, 6 years have passed. Miranda struggled deeply with the loss of her child, as she was never given the chance to say goodbye. By the time she was discharged, Kevin had already buried their daughter. How she wept at the small mound in the city cemetery, where her husband brought her after much persuasion. Miss Caroline was also there, with a stone face. It's all right, you'll have more children, she only said as they left the cemetery, but those words pierced Miranda's heart. She couldn't conceive anymore, there were complications after that pregnancy. Miranda lived with her pain day after day and couldn't find solace. She wanted to return to her profession, but it felt as if a light bulb had burned out inside her, and her hands just fell down. She no longer found interesting angles. All her characters seemed lifeless. Eventually, Kevin, looking at his wife's unsuccessful works, suggested that she quit. Stay at home, take care of the household, he said. And Miranda agreed. They lived in her late parents' apartment, where she had spent her entire childhood. Yes, being at home and surrounded by walls helped. She immersed herself in domestic chores, laundry, cooking, cleaning, and trips to the store. Her dreams of a career crumbled, but Miranda didn't mourn them. Now, she lived solely for her husband's career. And Kevin was a true professional. Under his guidance, the magazine became even more popular in the city. Andrea, who occasionally visited her friend, would talk about the affairs of the editorial team. Miranda listened attentively, and what interested her the most was how Kevin managed everything. "Kevin is the best editor," Andrea smiled. "Oh, Miranda, you're so lucky with your husband." "I know," Miranda nodded. She was happy to hear that Kevin was handling everything well. And there was something else that pleased her. Throughout all these years, Kevin never gave her a reason to be jealous, even though he worked surrounded by attractive girls. There were so many pretty girls in the office, but he only had eyes for Miranda and rushed home in the evenings. Of course, there were times when he stayed late, but those were just minor things. Miranda understood that the office had an irregular work schedule, meetings, presentations, and deadlines to meet for the magazine. She was also grateful to her husband after that unsuccessful pregnancy. She couldn't give Kevin a child, but he convinced her that they were good together, just the two of them. Whenever Ms. Caroline visited them, she would constantly talk about how lucky her son was to have such a caring wife. But she interacted with Miranda more formally than as a relative. However, it didn't bother the young woman. Ms. Caroline was her mother-in-law, what could she do? But everything was good with Kevin, and that was the most important thing. On that Sunday evening, all these memories rushed back. Miranda didn't even notice how she started to iron Kevin's shirt, then his suit, and a few bed sheets as well. Her husband sat at the laptop, then started writing something. Each of them was immersed in their own tasks. The ringing of the phone broke the silence. Miranda flinched as if awakening from her memories. Kevin picked up his mobile phone, eyebrows raised in surprise. "Mom. Why is she calling so late?" he said aloud and brought the phone to his ear. "Hello? What? Yes, I can." There was a perplexed expression on Kevin's face, and Miranda noticed it. She was surprised, but even more surprised when her husband waved her off as if to say, "I'll go and talk to Mom," and went to the bathroom. Usually, Miranda didn't listen to Kevin's conversations, but curiosity overwhelmed her. Why was her mother-in-law calling so late, and why did she not want Miranda to listen? She approached the bathroom door and rested her head against it. Kevin turned on the tap, so it was difficult to understand what the son and mother were talking about, but Miranda strained her ears to listen. "You said it was all over, that it's problems again," came from the bathroom. Miranda tensed up. What kind of problems were they talking about that she didn't know about? It was strange because they didn't keep secrets from each other. "And how much more do you want?" Kevin's voice was heard. "What nonsense. Maybe it's not even my child," he whispered fiercely. Miranda couldn't make out the rest, but that was enough for her. She froze in horror. How? Does Kevin have a child? That means he's cheating on her after all. He wasn't talking to his mother, but she, the fool, wore rose-colored glasses and lived blissfully, completely convinced that her husband loved her, while he was out there having a child with someone else. On shaky legs, Miranda returned to the room. She couldn't believe what she had just heard, but Kevin said those words, "my child." True, he expressed doubt, but that was secondary now. The main thing was that he had betrayed her. Miranda's initial impulse was to confront her husband as soon as he came out of the bathroom. But what would she accuse him of? Claiming she overheard something? He would twist it around. He would try to convince her, swear to his innocence, and then he would clam up, and Miranda would never know the truth. She had to come up with something else. Kevin emerged from the bathroom looking lost, said he was going to bed, kissed Miranda, and disappeared into the bedroom. "Are you still starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow, as usual?" Miranda surprisingly asked calmly. "No. I need to go earlier," Kevin responded. "I have to stop by my mom's too." "What's wrong with her? Why did she call?" Miranda asked, trying to appear indifferent. "Oh, she ran out of medication. She asked me to bring some," Kevin explained. Miranda only made a vague sound in response. All night, she lay awake, listening to her husband's peaceful breathing. He's sleeping, without a trace of shame. But then again, what did she expect? He's a healthy man, and he wants to have offspring. It's her fault for not being capable. Miranda sobbed quietly, feeling sorry for herself. But is this how it should be? If he started something with someone else and had a child, he should have told her, at least that would have been more honest. Instead, he sleeps with her, lives under the same roof, and sneaks into another woman's bed. How disgusting. As she drifted off to sleep, Miranda decided to follow her husband tomorrow and see where he went so early in the morning. She didn't have a concrete plan, it was all improvisation. Follow that gray SUV, she practically jumped into the car of the first taxi driver she found. The elderly man understood and started driving behind her husband's car. Who are we following? He cautiously asked. Isn't it obvious? Miranda snapped. Well, it's clear, don't trust your husband. Miranda didn't say anything. She simply watched Kevin's car ahead of them. Miranda realized they were heading in the opposite direction of the city, now she was certain they weren't going to his mother's. Miss Caroline lived in the neighboring district, but they had already crossed the river. Soon, Kevin's car stopped at a small park. Miranda asked the driver to drive very slowly, and she saw Kevin approach a young woman, talk to her for 2 minutes, hand her an envelope, and walk away. He gave money to his lover, Miranda thought with anger. For their child. She became angry, and then she burst into tears. Hey, sweetheart, what's wrong? The elderly driver gently touched her shoulder. Why are you crying? Nothing is clear yet. Your husband just met some girl. But it doesn't seem like they have a relationship. He simply handed her an envelope. Maybe she cornered him and begged for money. Did you consider that? Even if that's the case, Miranda sobbed, I understand perfectly why. They have a child. I see, the man scratched his head. Well, then you should ask your husband directly about it instead of crying and spying on him. Yes, you're right, Miranda sighed, wiping her tear-stained cheeks. That's what I'll do. But back home, she decided to take a different approach. She needed to ask Andrea if she knew anything. Maybe there were rumors about her husband at work, and Andrea just didn't want to tell her outright. A mistress? Her friend's eyes widened. Miranda, no, of course not. No one even has such thoughts. Kevin loves only you. They were sitting in a cafe near the office. Miranda had called her friend during the lunch break to ask her directly about everything. She decided not to mention the encounter with the unknown woman for now. What if Kevin got involved in something bad, and she would only be putting him in a difficult position by revealing what she saw? Did you ever have such thoughts? Andrea was surprised. Kevin is as loyal as a rock. No woman can sway him. There have been girls trying to flirt with him, but he never, and I mean never, even gives a hint of a double meaning to anyone. Kevin is a very decent man. You're just overthinking it. And where did these thoughts even come from in your head? I don't know, Miranda shrugged. It just seemed that way, maybe. Exactly, it just seemed that way, maybe, her friend reassured her passionately, easing Miranda's worries a bit. But then, who was that stranger in the park? And the conversation she overheard in the bathroom. What child was he talking about? These thoughts still troubled Miranda, but she decided to remain silent for now. Time would reveal what happens next. She would simply observe. A week had passed, and everything seemed unchanged. She returned home from the store, prepared dinner for her husband, and lay down. Overwhelmed by all the worries and thoughts that had plagued her, she fell into a deep sleep in an instant. She woke up late in the evening. The lights from street lamps shone into the room through the uncovered window. Miranda squinted and stretched, feeling somewhat rested. But what would she do during the night? Suddenly, she looked around anxiously. Where was Kevin? It was already nighttime. She was about to get up when she heard her husband's voice from the hallway. He was speaking quietly on the phone, but she could hear everything clearly. Yes, she's asleep. I just checked. Miranda immediately pretended to be asleep while she listened intently. I don't understand how she could have found out. Andrea, don't panic. We've already discussed it at work. Nothing will change. We'll continue our affair just as before, and Miranda. Well, she's just been watching silly TV shows. Yes, exactly. She's sitting at home, suffering from idleness. So, she made up this story. She doesn't know anything about us and won't find out. Take care, my love. You know I can't divorce her yet. I need her to transfer the apartment to my name. No, of course, I could buy a new one for you and me, but it's so expensive. Why spend the money when we have this option right next to us? Kevin fell silent and glanced into the room, making sure his wife was peacefully asleep. He closed the door tighter and continued the conversation in a hushed tone. Miranda, opening her eyes, listened in horror. It turned out that all these years she had been living with a monster. I've already made an arrangement with the doctor. Yes, he provided the medication. I've been adding a little to her tea. She's asleep now, and it seems the medication is taking effect. She blurted out about the affair because the medication started working. The doctor said that soon Miranda will start experiencing problems with her mind, hallucinations, hysterics, and then she'll be declared mentally unstable. Andrea, don't worry. She'll be securely confined to a clinic later. He fell silent, listening to something, and then smirked. Well, I came up with everything. You know I have talent. Kevin said something else, or rather, murmured with his lover. Miranda, of course, understood that he was talking to her and that her best friend Andrea was the traitor. Despicable, Miranda silently sobbed. She looked me in the eyes and lied, and then told everything to Kevin. The thought of the stranger in the park faded into the background, or even to the third plan. Now Miranda hardly thought about it at all. She decided that the woman simply knew about Kevin's plans and was extorting money from him and the child. No, perhaps she had misheard or misunderstood. There was another problem now. Dread consumed her soul. Her husband was plotting against her while smiling sweetly and kissing her in the mornings. To drive me insane, take away the apartment, but we'll see who wins, Miranda thought to herself and closed her eyes. Once again, she fell asleep. Perhaps the medications Kevin had mentioned were already taking effect. Miranda opened her eyes in the morning. The first thing she remembered was the conversation she overheard yesterday. Oh God, there were so many overheard conversations in her life now. Well, there was nothing she could do about it. Kevin peered into the room. Good morning, my love. He smiled so sincerely that it was hard to believe he had spoken about her yesterday. Good morning, Miranda yawned, trying to appear indifferent. Wow, you sleepyhead. Kevin kissed her on the temple. I came home yesterday, and you were sleeping. I didn't want to wake you, I thought you would get up on your own. And you dozed off on the couch all night. Are you feeling all right? Not sick? I don't know, Miranda replied, closing her eyes to avoid seeing his feigned caring face. Feeling weak, huh? Maybe, I'll just rest. Sorry, honey, I probably won't be able to make you breakfast. I'll make coffee for myself. Take care of yourself. Kevin kissed her and headed towards the door, then turned back. Miranda, if you feel worse, you call me. Okay, Miranda nodded silently in response, covering her head with a fluffy blanket. It was hard for her to believe that her Kevin was not the person he pretended to be, but she had heard everything yesterday. And Andrea was a snake. Now she couldn't trust anyone. She had to solve everything on her own. As soon as Kevin closed the front door behind him, Miranda jumped off the couch. First and foremost, she needed to find out what her husband was adding to her tea. After all, she had slept for far too long, and it seemed strange. He said he adds something to the tea, she recalled. That meant drops or powder. Miranda searched the kitchen, bedroom, living room, and Kevin's study. Nothing suspicious. So, he must carry it with him. She spent the whole day lying in bed, reflecting on her life. How did it happen that she, a promising photojournalist, suddenly turned into a housewife? Yes, losing the child had shaken her, but then, why couldn't she recover for so many years? Was it because her beloved husband convinced her that she was worthless, incapable of anything, and her destiny was to cook soups, iron his shirts, and patiently wait for him to come home? That's how it turned out. Yes, when she was left alone with her grief after the hospital, Kevin persuaded her to calm down, take a break from work, and she listened, calming down. But in reality, she should have done the opposite. She should have forced herself, against her will, to pick herself up and engage in her passion, her favorite work. And now she had almost forgotten everything she had been taught at university. Only recipes, secrets of domestic comfort, and occasionally watching another TV series during her moments of rest. Miranda had dissolved herself in her husband, she lived through his successes, took pride in him. And what was the result? He found a replacement for her, and that's after everything they had been through. Miranda realized she needed to take action. No, not through a scandal, that wouldn't solve anything. Miranda decided to pretend that she was still sleepy and lethargic. In the evening, when Kevin came home, he was surprised to see his wife asleep again. Nothing was prepared for dinner, the bed in the bedroom remained unmade, and Miranda was still on the couch in the living room. He gently touched her shoulder and placed his palm on her forehead. She was sleeping. He left the room and dialed someone on his phone. "The medication isn't working as you promised," Miranda heard Kevin's voice. "She sleeps all day." "No, I did exactly as you instructed. I don't need it this way." I clearly explained, she should have at least some confusion of mind, but instead, she's become like a vegetable. "Fine, come over." He went to the kitchen and made himself tea, preparing dinner while Miranda waited. Someone had to come. But who? She anxiously gripped the voice recorder she had thoughtfully taken with her. Somewhere, after an hour, the doorbell rang. Miranda heard an unfamiliar male voice. Kevin was saying something. He was clearly taken aback by the whole situation. "Here," said Kevin, opening the doors to the living room. "She's been sleeping for 2 days." "That's strange," the nasally male voice replied. Miranda wished she could open her eyes and see this person, but she restrained herself and only pressed the button on the voice recorder in her hand. The fluffy blanket concealed everything. "The effect you described couldn't have happened from the drops I gave you, unless you deviated from the dosage," the stranger pondered. "Exactly 10 drops, just as you instructed," Kevin exclaimed. "I don't understand anything. Although initially, there might be some sluggishness." "Wait, are you sure she can't hear us?" "No, she's sleeping." "Can't you see?" Miranda breathed evenly, sleeping peacefully, even smiling slightly in her sleep. "Yes, indeed, she's asleep." "Should we call an ambulance?" "And what do I tell them?" "My wife is sleeping." "They'll take her for tests, and they'll definitely detect this drug." "Tell them that she took the medication herself, that you had nothing to do with it." "Although you're right, there will be a question of where she got the medication. But I think everything will be fine. Soon, everything will go according to plan, don't worry. Somewhere, in about a month, when the drug accumulates in her system, she will become agitated and even uncontrollable." The stranger approached the couch and took Miranda's hand to check her pulse. Miranda joyfully noted to herself how well she held the voice recorder in her other hand, but at the same time, she realized she couldn't pretend to be asleep any longer. So when the stranger touched her, she flinched and opened her eyes. A slender man in his 50s, repulsive with thin mustaches and curly gray hair, was looking at her. "Miranda," exclaimed Kevin. "I had to call a doctor. You've been lethargic for 2 days." He rushed over and hugged her. Miranda barely managed to hide the voice recorder under the pillow. "Kevin. What's happening?" she murmured, pretending to have just woken up. "I thought you were sick. That's why I called the doctor." "The ambulance?" Miranda stared at the man with confusion. Kevin seemed visibly nervous. No, nothing like that. I called a doctor from a private clinic, Kevin hurriedly explained. I didn't call the ambulance right away. They would cause a commotion, you know how it is. A bunch of tests and all that. They would take you to the hospital, and I know how much you dislike hospitals. Yes, you're right, yawned Miranda. I'm fine. I guess I'm just really tired. Yes, my dear, you don't take care of yourself with all these household chores. Rest is important too. Kevin gently stroked her head and appeared to be a caring husband. In the past, Miranda would have believed him, but not now, not after hearing so much. I should probably go, the man coughed tactfully. Yes, let me see you out, Kevin replied. They whispered something to each other in the hallway. Miranda only caught the words, 10 drops. She shuddered. Her husband was deliberately trying to destroy her, but now she was aware of everything that was happening, and it was unlikely to go as he intended. Kevin returned, sat next to Miranda, and embraced her, looking tenderly into her eyes. Sweetheart, would you like me to bring you some tea? He offered. Sure, agreed Miranda. But let's go to the kitchen. In the kitchen, she realized that Kevin was trying to distract her so she wouldn't see him brewing the tea. He immediately sent her to the bathroom to wash up after her nap. Miranda might not have paid much attention to it before, she was planning to do it anyway. But this time she knew that her husband was trying to get her out of the kitchen for a reason. Inside her, a storm raged. He believed that his wife was sleeping all the time because of those drops, and he continued his dark deeds. But she also knew what to do. Oh, tea. Miranda smiled as she entered the kitchen and saw the table set. Darling, I'm sorry I didn't prepare anything today. Oh. It's nothing, Kevin smiled. I made some sandwiches, candies, and fruits. It's enough for us. Okay, nodded Miranda, and then pretended to remember something. Darling, can you bring me the phone from the living room? Are you expecting a call? He raised his eyebrows in surprise. Yes. Andrea might call. Miranda quickly came up with an excuse. Kevin shrugged and went to fetch the phone, while Miranda took the opportunity to switch the cups. Let him drink his own filth. He clearly added those 10 drops, she thought. Kevin returned with her phone, and they had tea and chatted about trivial matters. Oh, how much Miranda wanted to confront him, to tell him everything she knew about him and what she suspected, but she held back. She had a different goal in mind. Darling, do you still love me? She suddenly asked casually. Of course, Kevin even choked on his tea. Darling, you're more precious to me than anyone in the world. Why do you ask? Just wanted to hear your declaration of love one more time, Miranda smiled. Then she headed to the bathroom. She had already turned on the water when she heard her husband's phone ring. Miranda leaned against the door. It's all fine, she heard him say. Don't call right now, she's starting to suspect something. Maybe it's the effects of the medicine. That's it. Goodbye. Love you. Is he talking to Andrea? Miranda seethed with anger, but she managed to control her emotions. She climbed into the bathroom and lay there for a long time, contemplating what to do next. The next step was to find that damn medication. Whether it really worked that way or Kevin was tired, when Miranda came out of the bathroom, he was peacefully sleeping on their bed in the bedroom. Making sure he was in a deep sleep, she meticulously began searching his briefcase, then his belongings. In the jacket pocket, she felt a small vial. It was the mysterious medication that her husband had been poisoning her with for several days. Today he tried it himself. Miranda smiled maliciously at her thoughts. The vial had no label. At first, she thought of simply pouring the contents down the sink, but then she changed her mind. Carefully, she transferred the contents into an old contact lens container, rinsed the vial, and filled it with clean water. Now let him pour even 100 drops, Miranda whispered and put the vial back in the jacket pocket. She then hid the container with the medication far away in a sideboard, along with the dictaphone. They were evidence of her husband's schemes. Miranda hadn't decided how she would use them yet, but time would tell. Now in the mornings, she drank her tea calmly, even when Kevin poured it for her. Yes, he watched her well-being attentively, but nothing happened. Miranda was calm and lively. She could see a certain unease in her husband's eyes, and she even found amusement in it. At some point, she decided to play along. One day, a cup slipped from her hands and fell, shattering into pieces. "You fool, chicken. Damn you," she suddenly shouted, picked up a shard of the cup, and threw it on the floor again. The tiny fragments scattered. Kevin was clearly taken aback by such behavior, but at the same time, Miranda couldn't miss how he suddenly perked up. "Darling, it's just a cup. What's gotten into you?" he asked in surprise. "That's precisely it, just a cup," Miranda exclaimed. "I'm fed up with everything. All this crockery, you wash it, you scrub it, and then it breaks into pieces. Ungrateful." "Who, the cup?" Kevin scoffed. "Yes. And why are you laughing?" Miranda cried out with anger. "Oh, darling, what's gotten into you? I'm just asking. Calm down. If you want, break something else." "I have to go to the office now," he said, planting a kiss on her cheek and quickly rushing out of the apartment. "He's rejoicing," Miranda noted to herself. "He thinks his potion is finally starting to take effect on her." "Yeah, right." But just to make sure her husband was convinced of his rightness, she threw a couple of plates on the floor. She felt sorry for them, but what could she do? Once she started playing the role, she would play it until the end. By lunchtime, the doorbell rang. Miss Caroline stood at the doorstep. "Hello?" Dear mother-in-law entered the apartment, briefly glanced at the kitchen. Miranda had already cleaned up the shards, and everything was in perfect order. Her mother-in-law raised her eyebrows in surprise, but remained silent. It seemed that her daughter-in-law looked normal, yet her son had been insisting for a week now that something was off with Miranda. Today she had been breaking dishes in the morning, not taking care of anything. But from the first glance, everything seemed fine. "I decided to drop by for a visit," she said, taking off her coat in the hallway. And rightly so, Miranda smiled. "I thought of baking an apple pie, just the way Kevin likes it." "That's good." Miss Caroline looked closely at her daughter-in-law. "Miranda, is everything okay between you and Kevin?" "Yes," Miranda replied without blinking an eye. "Why do you ask?" "Well, he's been acting somewhat different lately," thoughtful. "I can't understand it." "Maybe work is stressing him out," Miranda shrugged. "Things at the office are always a mess, thank God I left." In a family, someone has to be level-headed. "Yeah, you're right. You did the right thing by leaving. Someone has to be sane in the family." The women laughed together, then they baked the pie, chatted, and had tea. Yes, their relationship had always been strained, but on this day, they conversed so pleasantly. Miranda sensed something fishy but couldn't figure it out. Could Miss Caroline be involved in all these potion affairs? No, it didn't seem likely. Could she stoop to committing a crime, considering her past as a judge? And what about the accusation that Kevin was cheating with her best friend? No, Miranda couldn't believe such a thing was possible. Miss Caroline, though a stranger, wasn't malicious. And Kevin. He was the closest to her, and his blow had hurt so much that it would have been unbearable even for an enemy. But Miranda had to endure the blow. It wasn't time yet to reveal all her cards. "Miranda, what are you thinking about?" Her mother-in-law noticed her gaze fixed on one spot. "Oh, just trivial things," Miranda waved it off. "I should start preparing dinner for Kevin soon." "Right, it's already 5 o'clock. We've been sitting here for so long." "Well, I'll go." Her mother-in-law left in complete bewilderment. What was all this about her son complaining yesterday that Miranda seemed off? She seemed perfectly normal. That evening, Miranda faced another test. Kevin came home at 8 o'clock in the evening. He kissed his wife, looked at her attentively, and asked about her well-being. Miranda was so repulsed by his presence that it was hard to contain herself. It was difficult to communicate with someone every day, knowing they wished you harm, and to smile at them. I have a headache, Miranda complained. I'm going to bed. Dinner is on the stove. Okay, Kevin agreed somewhat contentedly. Go and rest. Miranda lay in bed, tossing and turning, thinking about how to confront Kevin and present the evidence against him. There was plenty of it: the recording from the dictaphone, the mysterious liquid in the lens container, the overheard conversation with Andrea. She wanted to kick him out of the apartment and be done with it, but her heart thirsted for revenge. And Andrea. They hadn't seen each other once after all this. It was difficult to look into the eyes of someone she had trusted for so many years. As if it wasn't Andrea who was to blame, but herself, Miranda. She was already dozing off when the doorbell rang. Miranda opened her eyes and listened intently. In the hallway, there was muffled laughter and whispers. She sat up on the bed, listening carefully. Why did you come? Kevin was speaking softly. She might wake up. So what? A female voice laughed. She's already halfway there, as you say. What does it matter if she wakes up? I've missed you so much. And at work, you're so strict, you don't even look at me. Darling, let's go to a nightclub and then to my place. All right, I'm coming, Kevin agreed. He headed to the living room, presumably to get his phone, while Miranda sat on the bed, unable to move. She realized who was their guest. It was Andrea. Shameless and completely fearless. How much longer would she tolerate this? Miranda abruptly stood up and left the bedroom. At that moment, Kevin, who had already returned to the hallway, was kissing Andrea. Hello, friend, Miranda said softly, her voice seething with anger. Her fury was making her tremble slightly. She held on to her last bit of strength to prevent herself from grabbing the homewrecker by her hair. Miranda? Andrea peeked out from behind Kevin's shoulder and smirked. I was told you were fast asleep. Don't hold your breath, Miranda hissed furiously. You're such a vile creature. Anyone but you. And why not me? Andrea smirked arrogantly. I've always liked Kevin. It's just a coincidence that he approached you first, but then he realized his mistake. Isn't that right, Kevin? Girls, don't fight, Kevin muttered in confusion. He was taken aback by the situation. Everything was spiraling out of his control. You scoundrel! Miranda shouted. Get the hell out of here. I'm not going anywhere, Kevin suddenly declared. I live here, it's my registered address. And so what? This is my apartment. Get the hell out and go to your little whore. Miranda was furious. I don't want to see either of you again. Losing control of herself, Miranda threw the first thing she could grab at Kevin. It was a floor vase. The vase crashed right at Kevin's feet. Oh, Kevin, Andrea wailed. You were right, she's completely unhinged now. We should call a special team. Call it for yourself. Miranda exclaimed. Get out, or I'll call the police right now. And what will you tell them? Kevin suddenly smirked. That you're throwing yourself at people? Your friend came to visit, and you're attacking her. Isn't that right, Andrea? Andrea readily nodded her head. And the team will believe me faster, you've been under psychiatric observation for over a month now. The doctor regularly visits us and witnesses your deterioration. He warned me long ago that you're becoming uncontrollable, Kevin boldly declared. Miranda's outrage left her breathless. No one visits us. You see, you even have memory lapses. Do you at least remember smashing the dishes in the kitchen today? So, it's that guy with the annoying mustache, Miranda guessed, brushing off her husband's question. Mr. Thomas is a highly regarded specialist in the city. His diagnosis is trustworthy. In short, go to the bedroom and calm down, or else they'll take you away to the hospital right now. Miranda recoiled from her husband. His face contorted in a grimace of anger. It would cost her too much to fight him at that moment. Miranda went into the bedroom amid Andrea's satisfied laughter. Then the door slammed shut, and her husband and his lover left. Miranda collapsed onto the bed and burst into tears. What was the use of collecting evidence that her husband had ill intentions towards her? Apparently, he had already announced her incompetence to the whole world, and being taken to a mental institution was just a matter of time. After all, what was her recording on the dictaphone worth? Nothing. It would be difficult to prove who was speaking, when, and where. Perhaps those words were taken out of context from a different conversation. What about the medicine? Where was the proof that she didn't retrieve it herself and that the phone call with the lover was just her imagination? Kevin could turn everything around in such a way that her own words would be used against her. Miranda felt lost and crushed. Her happy life, all her plans and expectations, had crumbled. Her husband would now act openly against her, and Miranda didn't know what to do. Tonight, she had a dream. She was walking through an autumn park, with leaves rustling under her feet and bright sunlight shining. It felt warm and joyful, as if nothing terrible had happened in her life. Suddenly, a huge dog, black and shaggy, ran up to Miranda. Quiet joy turned into panicked fear. She couldn't move her legs or arms. Her scream got stuck in her throat. The dog didn't attack, it simply stood in her way, blocking her path. Finally, regaining some composure, the woman tried to step aside, but prickly bushes grew on both sides of the path out of nowhere. She turned back and saw a little girl running towards her, just about 6 years old. The girl saw Miranda and shouted, "Mom, don't be afraid. Buddy is so friendly." The girl ran up to Miranda, reaching out her hands. The woman recoiled from the child. Mom? She didn't have a daughter. Her baby had died. But the little girl just shook her head, cautiously bypassed Miranda, and approached the dog, petting it. "Let's go, Buddy. Nobody loves us," the girl said loudly, and they walked ahead on the path, the little girl and the huge black dog. In an instant, they vanished like smoke, and Miranda wanted to run after them, but her feet seemed rooted to the ground. The girl, the strange girl. Miranda never even saw her face, it was blurry, like in a fog, and only the ringing voice remained in her ears, "Mom." The woman even woke up from that cry. Her heart was pounding furiously, sticky sweat covered her forehead, and her limbs felt as if they had turned to stone. Miranda struggled to sit up. What was that dream? Did her own daughter appear in her dream? It had never happened before. Yes, this year, her daughter would have been the same age as the girl in her dream. Why did she come to her? Miranda asked herself this question 1,000 times and found no answer. "Oh, God, I'm really going crazy," Miranda whispered. She took a deep breath, listened carefully. Kevin wasn't home, and that was good. Meeting her husband would be the most difficult test for her right now. How could she look at him? How could she talk to him after what happened yesterday? And then her phone rang. Unknown number. After some hesitation, Miranda picked up the receiver. "Hello, Ms. Miranda." She heard an unfamiliar female voice on the other end. "Yes, it's me," Miranda cautiously replied. "You're getting call from the children's home. My name is Angelina. I work as a caregiver in the preschool group. I managed to obtain your number from the clinic you're affiliated with. Since when do they distribute numbers there?" Miranda was unpleasantly surprised. "And why are you calling me?" "It's a lengthy conversation and not suitable for the phone," Angelina replied. "Let's meet, and I'll explain everything to you." "Well, let's do that," Miranda said with skepticism. Has Kevin come up with something again? The woman thought, but immediately dismissed the idea. Perhaps the children's home found out that she used to be a photographer and decided to request a photo shoot for their children, as a pro bono assistance? Miranda decided not to speculate and would find out everything once they met. They agreed to meet at a small cafe in the city center in a couple of hours. As Miranda entered the cafe, she froze in her tracks. She immediately recognized the woman whom Kevin had met just over a week ago in the park. In her hands, she held a folded newspaper, just as she had mentioned during their phone conversation when Miranda asked how to identify her during the meeting. Miranda's heart pounded anxiously. Could it be that Kevin had come up with something else? Angelina? Miranda approached the woman. The fair-haired, pleasant-looking woman raised her head and nodded cautiously in response. You're Miranda. Yes, I'm listening, Miranda replied, sat down, and stared directly at the woman whom she had considered a homewrecker just a week ago. Now, of course, she understood that she had been mistaken back then, but clearly, this conversation didn't promise anything good. At least, that's how Miranda felt, and she was prepared for the worst. She was as tense as a spring and could retaliate at any second if this girl accused her of something or talked about Kevin. Let her take him and share him with Andrea as she pleased. Miranda's love for her husband had diminished to nothing over the past week. She felt a deep hatred towards him. But first, clarify the question of who gave you my phone number. As I said, I received help at your clinic, but it was truly out of good intentions. Please don't be angry. Angelina pleaded, looking at Miranda with her huge blue eyes. It's just that the situation has unfolded in a way that I don't know who else to turn to. I've been in contact with your husband before, trying to explain everything to him, but he probably didn't understand the seriousness of the situation. He gave me 10,000, and that's it. But it's not enough. Stop. Miranda raised her hand to stop her interlocutor. I don't understand anything. What 10,000? What situation are you talking about? What? Angelina gasped. He didn't tell you anything? Angelina, what should he have told me? Miranda was starting to get angry. What kind of act was this girl putting on in front of her? Miranda, your daughter needs a serious operation. Otherwise, she may permanently lose her eyesight. Vivian is in line for a free operation, but I'm afraid we might be running out of time. The doctors said we should look for sponsors. But where do we find them? They're all generous only on TV, but in reality. That's when I remembered that Vivian has her own parents. I looked into it and found out that you live quite well off. Why not help your own child? Miranda was stunned as she listened to her. What was she even saying? Aren't you ashamed? She finally spoke, and tears welled up in her eyes. Miranda blinked frequently. You're heartless and despicable. How can you say such things? My daughter died in the maternity ward 6 years ago, and here you are sitting and talking to me about some child. According to you, it means I abandoned my own daughter. I buried her 6 years ago. Now Angelina looked at her with astonishment. I'm sorry, is your husband Kevin Simon, the editor of our city magazine? She spoke hesitantly. Yes, he's my husband, Miranda replied, raising her head, and then she lowered it and covered her face with her hands. Our daughter died, she was born at 22 weeks, the doctors couldn't save her. The baby's heart stopped. If needed, I have a death certificate. What certificate are you talking about when I saw the statement of abandonment, signed by you? Angelina blinked frequently, not understanding anything. No, your girl is alive. Vivian. Vivian Simon. I started searching by the last name, thinking she was abandoned, and then the head nurse told me that her parents had abandoned her because she was born severely premature. They supposedly feared that the child would be disabled. I saw the documents of abandonment myself. Your surname, name, patronymic, and your signature were there. I didn't sign anything, Miranda whispered. So, my girl is alive? Alive, alive, Angelina nodded happily. She's a very good and clever girl, and everything is fine with her. She walks, talks, and even sings songs so beautifully that you could listen forever. She reads poems well. There's just one problem with her eyes. She has already had 2 surgeries, but it's not enough. She needs another operation, but you can't get it for free. Vivian. He finally called her Vivian, just as I asked. Miranda grabbed her head. Oh God, did Kevin orchestrate all of this? What did he say when you told him about the child? He wasn't surprised that she was alive. Angelina cautiously chose her words as she explained. Rather, he was just bewildered that the past had resurfaced in his life. He only scolded me for finding out about him, his address. But why should I have to find him out when he's a well-known figure in our city? I called him for the first time, asked to meet, and he refused. So I explained everything over the phone, and he promised to think about what he could do, and then fell silent. It was only later that some benefactor brought sweets to the orphanage, most likely your husband, I suppose. After some time, I called again, arranged a meeting in the park, wanting to explain everything to him in person, tell him about Vivian, and he came, handed me an envelope, and left, saying he helped as much as he could. When I opened the envelope, I was shocked, only 10,000, when the operation costs million. I don't believe what's happening. Is my child alive? But the doctor told me she had died. Kevin cried with me. Ms. Caroline. So she knew too, or was she the one who orchestrated it all? Miranda spoke feverishly. Yes, I remember how she said we needed to write the refusal, and then that doctor. He said the child died and the grave. Kevin even took me to the grave. Now I visit it every year, clean it up, bring flowers, light candles in the church for the repose of my little daughter. And she's alive. Oh God, it's horrifying. If you don't believe me, I can show you the documents of the refusal. Angelina took out her phone from her bag. I took photos of the papers. There are signatures there. She handed the phone to Miranda. The woman stared at the image on the screen. Yes, without a doubt, those were their surnames, Kevin's signature. Yes, that's how he signs. His signature hasn't changed at all over the years. But her signature. This is not my signature, Miranda said, astonished. It looks similar, but it's not mine, not my handwriting. Now everything falls into place. They lied to you. Angelina looked sympathetically at Miranda. I'm so sorry. Damn it, Miranda exclaimed. I'll deal with them later. Right now, I want to see my girl. Can that be arranged? I think so, Angelina nodded. And now they were in a taxi heading to the orphanage. Upon arriving, they went straight to the office of the head nurse. Initially, Ms. Barbara was on guard, not recognizing the unfamiliar woman. I know you, you cuckoos, she declared. First, you refuse, run away from the problems, and then you sit here in my office, shedding tears. Yes, Vivian Simon is in our orphanage. Yes, the child has eye problems. And when they abandoned her, did they not understand that premature babies often have serious illnesses? What do you want from me now? To show you the girl? I'll show her to you, but from a distance, no more. Do you want to help the child? Then help, I'll give you the details, but I won't allow you to interact with the child. And you, Angelina, are no better. You've been working here for just a week, and you're already making decisions on your own. Who asked you to inform the Simons about their daughter? But I'll have a talk with you later. Wait, Miranda interrupted the angry speech. Angelina did the right thing. I've believed all these years that my girl was dead. She even has a grave. What nonsense. Ms. Barbara was perplexed. Your daughter is alive. Or is she not yours? Angelina, why did you confuse everyone? These are different Simons. Yes, they are the ones, Angelina replied softly. They just lied to the woman. She didn't abandon her daughter. And Miranda stumbled through her explanation. So, this is not your signature? Ms. Barbara skeptically looked at Vivian's personal file, which she eventually retrieved from the safe. It's not mine, Miranda assured her. Well, that changes things. But your husband. I don't know how to describe him. He's a scoundrel and a villain, Miranda whispered. But I'll deal with him and everyone associated with him later. Right now, I want to see my girl. Vivian. The only thing I'm grateful to Kevin for is that he at least named our daughter as I asked. Let's go to the playroom, the children are there now. Ms. Barbara decisively stood up and headed towards the door. Miranda hurried after her. In the playroom, there were about 20 children aged 3 to 6. Some were stacking blocks, others were drawing at the table, and the boys were playing with toy cars. One girl sat quietly in the corner, clutching a plush teddy bear to her chest. Miranda looked at her, and her heart squeezed. How much this little girl resembled herself as a child. Just as slender, with a slightly upturned nose, her wheat-colored hair neatly braided in a thick braid. The only thing Miranda couldn't discern was the color of her eyes, hidden behind thick glasses. She has very poor eyesight, the woman exclaimed in horror. Her vision is rapidly deteriorating, sighed Ms. Barbara. But if we perform the surgery within the next couple of months, we can halt the myopia. Ophthalmologists have given a favorable prognosis. In that case, we can restore her vision, not 100%, of course, as there's still astigmatism. But it can be managed if we perform the surgery. Can I approach her? Miranda whispered, her voice trembling. You can, but don't reveal your true identity yet. You understand that the girl is already going through a lot. She has poor eyesight and can't play properly with the other children. She often cries, and now there's this shock of her mother appearing and leaving again. You understand that I can't give her to you. I understand everything, Miranda said and took a step towards the girl. Hello, Vivian. Miranda crouched down next to the little girl. My name is Aunt Miranda. Hello, the girl spoke softly and looked attentively at the unfamiliar woman. Are you our new caregiver? No, I'm a photographer, Miranda answered, swallowing the lump in her throat. I want to take your picture. Are you okay with that? Me, the girl exclaimed in surprise. But I. She sobbed and fell silent. Oh, sweetheart, why are you upset? Miranda was surprised and gently stroked the girl's head, noting how silky her hair was. And Vivian's eyes were green with a yellow fleck, just like hers. Auntie, please don't photograph me, Vivian whispered. I'm ugly, you see. Who told you that? Miranda sat down on a small chair next to her and embraced the little girl. That's not true. Look at my glasses, all the kids laugh at me. And they call me names too. Don't listen to them. You are beautiful. I came here today just to choose a hero for my photo shoot, and soon I'll be back with my camera. We'll take amazing photos together, and everyone will be jealous. Please, don't do that, the others will cry. Instead, take pictures of all of us. Yes, you're right, that's what I'll do. It's settled then. We'll have a photo shoot soon. We will. The boy who stood nearby had clearly eavesdropped on their conversation and started tugging at Miranda's sleeve. Auntie, are you really coming to us? Are you telling the truth? Absolutely, Miranda smiled, trying to hide the tears welling up. I will definitely come and photograph all of you. The boy immediately ran to inform everyone about the upcoming photo session. The excitement was palpable as all the children cheered, clapped their hands, and shouted in joy. Miranda gently stroked Vivian's head once more, smiled at her, and headed towards the exit. What have you done? The headmistress scolded her. I asked for quiet, without any fuss. And you? I just wanted to give the children a positive experience, Miranda defended herself. To be honest, I came up with it on the spot. Well, is it really so bad if you end up with high-quality photographs? You can use them wherever you need. Well, okay. You've convinced me. And most importantly, you'll show me Vivian's diagnosis and the cost. Provide me with the details and all. I'll try to address this issue as soon as possible. To be honest, Miranda didn't know yet how she would solve the problem, but she had a strong sense that she would do what needed to be done. As she rode in the taxi, she recalled the girl's face. Yes, she was her little one. There was no need for any expertise. Angry thoughts overwhelmed her again. How could Kevin treat her like this? Although, why was she surprised? After he had tried to poison her with medication, openly threatened her, after she overheard his conversations with his lover, and then that woman shamelessly came to their house. There was nothing left to be surprised about. And his mother? She was clearly aware of the situation with Vivian, and most likely, she was the instigator. To the maternity hospital, she asked the driver to change the route. He cautiously glanced at Miranda but didn't say anything, just nodded in response. She even smiled, but the smile quickly vanished from her face. Yes, she would never end up there for the same reason other women are brought in. So what? She now had Vivian. And Miranda would do everything in her power to get her daughter back and heal her. Absolutely. At the maternity hospital, she asked for a doctor named Mr. Peterson. She remembered that he was the head at the time. He was the one who had delivered the sad news to Miranda, and his stamp was on the documents Angelina had shown her. Mr. Peterson is in his office, they told her at the reception. Can I go in? No, of course not, exclaimed a female medical worker. We're not allowed to go to the wards. Then fetch Mr. Peterson for me, Miranda demanded. It's urgent. Her tone made the woman comply, and soon the head of the hospital descended. Miranda felt that he recognized her. He even paled slightly. Miranda also remembered him perfectly well. Yes, he was the doctor who told her about her daughter's heart failure. Miranda tightened her grip on the voice recorder she had conveniently brought with her. We need to talk, she said confidently. I see that you recognize me. No, I don't know you, the doctor blatantly lied. His hands even trembled, so he hid them in his lab coat pockets. Well, I think if you strain your memory, you will remember. A woman on bed rest for 3 months, premature birth at 22 weeks, and then supposedly the baby dies, Miranda said, lowering her voice, and then added louder, I can provide more details. I will call security now, Mr. Peterson raised his voice. Fine, Miranda almost whispered in response. And I will call the police. Mr. Peterson, I just need to talk to you. I know that my daughter is alive. I saw the refusal documents. The only problem is, I never refused my daughter. Fine, come with me to my office. Just put on a gown and wear shoe covers, the doctor replied, sighing with resignation. He closed the door tightly behind Miranda in the office and pointed to the table, then took a seat across from her. I'm sitting here, listening to you, he said dryly. I won't keep you long. I just need to know what really happened 6 years ago. Miranda discreetly turned on the voice recorder. You did remember me. Keep in mind that I saw the signature on the child abandonment papers, and I didn't sign those papers. I suggest you tell me everything. I won't go to the police, I have other plans to deal with my husband. Deal with him as much as you want, the doctor replied gruffly. But he wasn't the initiator of that story. Ms. Caroline? Yes, her. Understand, she used to be a judge, and the whole town knew her. She simply came to my office and said that if I didn't do everything as instructed, there would be an inspection from the Ministry of Health at my maternity hospital the very next day, and I would definitely lose my position. So, I prepared the documents for refusal, your husband signed them without even thinking. Ms. Caroline wanted to involve you too, but then she hesitated, realizing that you would read them and make a fuss. She signed them herself, that's all. And later, I went to you and said the baby had died. And you issued a death certificate. I didn't issue anything, the doctor shook his gray head. I am not burdened with that sin. How can you say you didn't issue it when I have a death certificate for Vivian and know the location of her grave? I know nothing about it. As for the documents, I believe your mother-in-law might have arranged them, possibly using her connections at the registry office. Miranda rubbed her temples. All these years, she had been surrounded by deceitful people, and she had lived without suspecting anything. They looked her in the eye, but they wouldn't have done anything if they hadn't been aided by money and the fear of losing their cozy positions, simply out of a desire to please. Thank you for telling me, Miranda said coldly and stood up. And the girl, the doctor called out to her as she reached the door. How is she? When we discharged her to the shelter, she was still weak. Good people helped her, she paused and added, not without your assistance, of course, and I'm grateful to you for that. Don't worry, I won't tell anyone about your actions. Thank you, the doctor lowered his head. Miranda left the hospital, contemplating the doctor's words and what she herself had said. How could she keep everything that had happened from being exposed? There was one option, but for that, she needed to know all the details. On her way from the maternity hospital, she went to another clinic. The thing was, she had found information about that same doctor with thin mustaches and thinning hair. He was next on her list now. Mr. Thomas doesn't see patients anymore today, a charming receptionist told her. But is he still here? Miranda clarified. Miss, I said he's not seeing patients, the nurse repeated patiently. And then Miranda noticed that very slender man who had recently stood over her, trying to count her pulse. Mr. Thomas. You're the one I need, she confidently stepped towards him. The voice recorder was still working in her bag. Appointments are only on Thursdays, he replied matter-of-factly, trying to pass by. What do you mean, only on Thursdays? Miranda exclaimed. But what about me? The drops you gave my husband have run out. Mr. Thomas looked at her face and recoiled. It was only now that he realized who he was talking to. You recognized me, Miranda hissed in his face. Either we have a heart-to-heart conversation right now, or I'm going to the police. I know everything. Fine, the doctor grumbled. Let's go to my office. Oh, no, Miranda laughed. I'm definitely not going to your office. Let's go to the park. You have a secluded area there. They sat on a bench in the park and talked. Miranda explained to the doctor that she knew her husband's plan and that she had heard everything when Mr. Thomas was at their apartment, and most importantly, she had the medication. It wouldn't be difficult for her to have it analyzed and find out what kind of drug it was. Then they could involve the police. I just want to understand how Mr. Thomas was able to easily persuade you to get involved in this, to drive you crazy. I've read about you. Patients speak highly of you, and now this. You agreed to deceive a healthy person. He forced me, Mr. Thomas admitted. The thing is, Kevin, back when he worked for a small yellow newspaper, uncovered an unpleasant case. We had a patient who died in the hospital. He died on his own, no one assisted him. He was undergoing treatment for addiction, but as it turned out, he wasn't really willing to get better. His friends kept supplying him with all sorts of garbage. And one day, he overdosed, but since he was already on medication, his heart couldn't handle it. We covered up the case, attributing it to a simple heart attack. The pathologist did everything correctly, but then one nurse blabbed to Kevin, and he found me. We had a pleasant conversation, and it seemed like we understood each other, so we parted ways peacefully. But recently, he reappeared. And he hinted that if I didn't help him deal with his wife, which is you, then I would be in big trouble. And I agreed. I see, you were frightened. How could I not be? Mr. Thomas exclaimed hysterically. I have a family. My son is studying at a private university. I can't expose them. If everything is revealed, I'll lose my job. That's the best case scenario, Miranda smirked. Okay, relax. I have no desire to expose you. I will deal with my husband myself. Just stay calm, the doctor advised. I'll try, Miranda smirked again. Anyone but you would give me that advice. Forgive me, Mr. Thomas exclaimed. I'm so ashamed. Honestly, I'm relieved that you're okay. Tell me, you didn't actually drink that medication, did you? I probably drank it a few times, thanks to Kevin's care, but don't think I slept like a log because of it. I've already figured that out. You outsmarted him, and you did the right thing. There's just one more piece of advice I'd like to give you. Yes? Please, forgive me. Another piece of advice from a confused doctor. Be careful with your husband. Once he realizes his plan has failed, he'll come up with something else. I understand that he wants to get hold of your apartment. I already know that, and I can assure you, he won't succeed. Miranda walked away from the park. On one hand, she even felt sorry for the doctor. He truly got himself tangled up, as he admitted. But on the other hand, after talking to him, she wanted to take a shower. It felt disgusting to interact with someone who does harm and tries to justify it by saying, "I didn't do it on purpose. I was forced." Now Miranda was heading to her mother-in-law's place. She wanted to look into the eyes of the person who took her child away from her. Miranda was convinced that it was Miss Caroline who persuaded Kevin 6 years ago to sign the documents, relinquishing parental rights. Miss Caroline opened the door, very surprised. "Is something wrong, Miranda? It's already evening. Did you prepare dinner for Kevin before going out?" "Let him prepare it himself," Miranda replied and walked into the apartment. Miss Caroline was momentarily stunned by such audacity and was ready to unleash an angry tirade about how one should take care of their husband. "How?" Miranda cut her off mid-sentence. "I know everything," she calmly said. "What do you know?" her mother-in-law exclaimed in surprise. "That it was you who orchestrated everything 6 years ago to declare my child dead. But my little girl is alive." Miranda stared into her mother-in-law's eyes without flinching. "How is she alive?" Ms. Caroline gasped. "Miranda, that's impossible. We buried her ourselves, with Kevin." "My dear, you must be exhausted. You've imagined something." "I spoke with a doctor from the maternity hospital. I saw the refusal documents." "Refusal, do you hear that? But you handed me a death certificate. How is that possible?" "You must be confused," her mother-in-law insisted. That's when Miranda showed her a photograph of the refusal document, which had a signature resembling Miranda's signature. "You do understand that it won't be difficult for me to prove that this signature is not mine. And then the ball will start unraveling. Imagine the public outcry. A former judge involved in such a scandal. I think people will find that intriguing." "Fine," Ms. Caroline suddenly agreed. "What do you want?" "I want to know who is buried there, where I go every year." "There's no one there. I simply paid the cemetery administration, and they allowed me to construct a small grave there. And the death certificate, my friend who works at the registry office issued it." "I see, Ms. Caroline. There's one thing I don't understand, how could you stoop so low? That's your granddaughter, and you didn't hesitate when you did all of this. And you convinced Kevin too." "No one persuaded him," Ms. Caroline wearily said. "If you must know, he asked me himself." "Miranda, you have to understand, the child was weak, sick. Why burden my son with that? You and he made the decision. I couldn't not support my son, especially since he was right. What could come of such a child? Only a profound invalid. A normal child came of it. And Vivian is almost healthy. By the way, thank you for giving her the name I asked for. It was Kevin who insisted, he got sentimental." Ms. Caroline waved her hand. "Miranda, I hope you won't stir up trouble. What's done is done. You and Kevin are living a good life. Just continue to live like that." "A good life? Are you sure?" Miranda scoffed. "Your son is cheating on me. Didn't you know?" "I didn't know. With my best friend. And he even wanted to have me committed to a psychiatric hospital to seize my apartment." "Oh, Miranda. But that's surely not true," Ms. Caroline gasped and paled. For her, all of this was truly news. "Unfortunately, it is true," Miranda sighed. "Well, I'll be going, Ms. Caroline." "Miranda, just calm down. Everything will be fine." "Of course, it will. But now you and your son need to make sure I don't report you." "What do you want?" "A divorce?" "But I think now Kevin won't object to that." "A divorce, but that's not enough. I need money, a lot of money. My daughter needs surgery, and even selling my apartment won't solve that problem. And where will I live with my daughter after that?" "Yes, I plan to take her out of the orphanage." Miranda paused, relishing the sight of her mother-in-law growing pale. Your apartment will cover some of it, at least it's something. Besides, Kevin has savings. He wanted to take my property for himself. Well, that won't work now, but he'll have to say goodbye to his savings. And yes, most importantly, I'll need the money within 2 weeks. Miranda, how is this possible? How can I sell my apartment and live on what? You also live off Kevin's salary. Not anymore. I intend to completely change my life, and your Kevin, as well as you if you don't want to end up in prison, have to find the money. I need 17 million. Saying this, Miranda left her mother-in-law's apartment, leaving her in a panicked state. Yes, Miranda knew that Ms. Caroline was calling her son at that moment, and they were already figuring out how to respond to Miranda. But that was the least of her worries. She knew she was right. Miranda decided to spend the night in a hotel. She was already in her room when Kevin called her. He was furious. What are you doing? He shouted into the phone. Making up some nonsense about the child, scaring my mom. Have you completely lost your mind? The psychiatric hospital is definitely crying for you. And the prison is crying for you. By the way, greetings from Mr. Thomas. He told me everything about how you forced him to work for you, Miranda calmly replied. Who is Mr. Thomas? Kevin choked. Come home quickly. We'll talk about it here. Sure, I will, Miranda smirked. I'll be home when you're not there, but before that, don't forget to pay me 17 million. That's exactly how much your daughter's treatment costs. Miranda paused, then added, Kevin, I don't understand what you are, a human or an animal. Even animals don't treat their offspring like this. And you abandoned, lied, and even now, when you were approached for help, what did you do? Just handed out some pocket change, a mockery, 10,000 when a huge sum is needed. Yeah. Why do I need this child? It was clear from the start that she would be miserable. I don't need a disabled child. I'm the editor of a well-known publication, and in my family, who knows what? And you decided to discard such a child from your life? Well, from mine too. Yes, I'm your husband and I have the right to decide. Oh, so that's how you're talking now? Miranda exclaimed. And then you decided to slowly push me out of your life. And who are you? A chicken, a dumb chicken. Andrea. She's beautiful, smart, cheerful, and she can definitely give me a healthy child. After her 5 abortions. Miranda smirked. Oh, didn't she tell you? Well, she can't have children. Oh, Kevin, you're devastated. Well, I hope you'll get over it somehow. Anyway, I've said it all. You owe me money for everything I've been through. No, not just me. The money is needed for your daughter's treatment. If you don't do it, I'll move forward. You'll put me in prison? Prove it. I'll prove it if necessary, Miranda quietly replied and hung up. She spent the midnight hours thinking. It seemed like she had done everything right. She was quite persuasive. Kevin wouldn't be able to wriggle out of it now, but one thing troubled her. If her husband behaved so brazenly, maybe he wasn't taking Miranda's words seriously? Yes, she would go to the police and tell them everything. Perhaps they would start an investigation, but how much time would that take? And she needed the money urgently. As dawn approached, a simple and easy solution to the whole problem came to her. Miranda appeared at the publishing house exactly at 9 o'clock. Miranda, her husband's secretary, was surprised. You're here for Kevin, but he hasn't arrived yet. How did you miss each other in the same apartment? No, I'm here to see Mr. Miller, Miranda replied curtly and continued down the corridor. Although Betty clearly wanted to chat, it wasn't the time for that now. Mr. Miller, the owner of the publishing house, happened to be present today. Miranda called him early in the morning, apologized for the early call, and requested an audience. The owner agreed to listen to her. Mr. Miller was around 50 years old. Not long ago, he had buried his wife, who died of a serious illness. He took over the publishing house after the death of his uncle and proved to be a good leader and a decent, fair person. Miranda. Mr. Miller smiled. I'm so glad to see you. I must admit, I was very surprised when you called me. What happened? Couldn't you resolve it with your husband? After all, he's an important person in our publishing house too. That's the problem, he's the most important, Miranda replied quietly. For many years, I didn't realize that I was living with a monster. And now I don't know what to do. And she began her story. About her daughter, about Kevin's attempt to put her on medication, about the apartment where her husband planned to live with his lover, her former friend. As evidence, she played the recording on the dictaphone. Mr. Miller listened to Kevin's shouts, the doctors confessing to their crimes, each in their own wrongdoing, and Ms. Caroline justifying her son. It's horrifying, the owner of the publishing house shook his head. I can't believe that I've been working with such a person for so many years and never noticed what he's truly like. Oh, no, Miranda sadly smiled. I lived under the same roof with him and didn't notice anything myself. I loved him and believed him. Here's what we'll do, Miranda. I will provide the money for your daughter's treatment from my personal funds, and don't argue with me. It will be like a sponsorship, philanthropy. It even benefits me as a businessman. But something needs to be done about Kevin. It's clear that he won't be working for me anymore. Miranda, I suggest writing a statement to the police against him and his mother. Let the doctors and everyone involved in these crimes be held accountable. Mr. Miller, honestly, I don't want any investigations. It would be enough for Kevin to disappear from my life along with his mother, but you're probably right. We can't avoid involving the police. Although I don't want all this fuss either, the owner supported her, after all, our publishing house will be dragged through all the channels. And it's bad publicity in this case. You know what? Leave your dictaphone with me and wait for me in the conference room. My secretary will call you. Miranda left the owner's office and as she entered the conference room, she saw Kevin and Andrea together, walking arm in arm and chatting happily. Kevin appeared confident in his impunity. They noticed Miranda too. Her husband started heading towards her, but he was called by Gloria, Mr. Miller's secretary. However, Andrea, lifting her head, walked straight towards Miranda, smirking at her former friend. So, what detective story did you come up with? She laughed as she entered the conference room. Ah. So you're already in the know. Miranda looked into the eyes of her former friend. Of course, I have no secrets from Kevin. So, you also know that my daughter is alive. And I knew, Andrea smirked. I've been aware from the beginning. How? Miranda exclaimed. You knew and you kept quiet? Why should I go against the person I love? And why would he want a disabled child? So, you're saying you've been sleeping with my husband for a long time? Miranda, you're such a naive fool. It's almost pitiful to look at you, Andrea laughed. I slept with Kevin even before you. Then he chose you, yes, I won't deny it was hurtful, but I pretended not to care. And then you had that stupid pregnancy and ended up in the hospital. And Kevin, a young, healthy man, well, it all started again. And it hasn't stopped since then. Stupid pregnancy, you say, Miranda said angrily. You've scraped up all your youth, now you won't have any left. Oh, who's talking? And what about you? Better? You gave birth to some frog and now you're running around, asserting your rights. You should have kept quiet and been grateful that Kevin didn't leave you and supported you all these years. My goodness. I was friends with this person for so many years. Miranda looked at Andrea in disbelief. I can't believe what you've become. What have I become? Mean, malicious, and vile. I don't care what you think of me. Andrea proudly lifted her head. I will be with Kevin now, for sure. To hell with your apartment, we'll buy our own. We'll see about that. No, do you really think that Kevin will succumb to your threats? Andrea laughed and waved her hand. Goodbye, my friend. And she cheerfully clacked her heels down the corridor, while Miranda remained in the conference room. She felt bitter and hurt once again. She had trusted Andrea for so many years, and now she was being laughed at. And how could she trust anyone else after this? Miranda approached the door and peeked into the corridor. Kevin almost collided with her, running so fast that he didn't notice her. His face was flushed and disheveled. You, he said angrily, then faltered and ran down the corridor towards the stairs, while Gloria called out to Miranda. Please come in to see Mr. Miller. Mr. Miller seemed pensive. He nodded at Miranda to take a seat, remained silent for a while, and then began speaking. What Miranda heard both relieved and frightened her. Summoning Kevin, Mr. Miller immediately turned on the dictaphone. Kevin listened, then tried to justify himself, defend himself, but Mr. Miller didn't bother listening. If you don't want to go to jail, you have one option, he said to Kevin. You disappear from this city today. And yes, don't count on your savings. You'll transfer them to your wife's account. Go to the bank right now and do it. You can keep a tiny bit for yourself, don't doubt it, I'll make sure of it. And one more thing. You'll take your mother out of this city as well, so that neither of you breathe the same air as Miranda. And if you try to be clever, I'll come after you. Remember, I have serious connections. You can threaten an ordinary doctor, but I can find people more influential and in power. They'll crush you to dust. Kevin understood everything. Of course, Mr. Miller didn't tell Miranda about his connections, he simply hinted that he had scared Kevin, and he genuinely seemed scared. I don't understand, Miranda said bewildered. What savings is he supposed to give me? All of them, Mr. Miller smiled. Oh, thank you. Now I might be able to pay for my daughter's surgery myself. Maybe it won't be enough. Don't even think about the surgery, the owner waved his hands. I said I would pay for it, so I will. Just give me the bank details. And one more thing. Isn't it time for you to return to your profession? I've been thinking about it for a long time, Miranda blushed slightly. And what is there to think about? Come back. As a photojournalist? Why as a photojournalist? We now have a vacant position of the magazine's editor. But you can still pursue photography in your free time. But Miranda was so flustered that she couldn't find the right words. But I have no experience in that kind of work. No, then you'll gain the experience. We have a good team, they'll help you. By the way, I've already fired Andrea. There are no more rats in the team. Thank you, Mr. Miller. I'll think about it. Take your time, the owner nodded, just 5 minutes. The magazine won't wait, after all. And he smiled at Miranda, and she smiled back at him. As she walked to her new workplace, she came across a tearful Andrea. She had already been informed about her dismissal and Kevin's dismissal. She stopped for a moment next to Miranda. Damn you, the former friend whispered. Wishing you all the best, Miranda replied with a smile and went to her new office, where they were already removing the nameplate of the former editor, Kevin Simon. Goodbye, Simon. Long live Simon, the secretary Betty, a simple but slightly foolish girl, made an unsuccessful joke. No. Betty, Miranda smiled at her, I will soon reclaim my maiden name, Milton. And everyone who heard it nodded approvingly because everyone had long known about Kevin's affair with Andrea and disapproved of it. They felt sorry for Miranda. Miranda did the right thing. Now that she had settled into her new position, she went to the orphanage in the evening. The children were out for their evening walk. Hello, Miranda shouted as she walked along the path towards the children and the caregivers. I've come to take your pictures. Oh, I'm not sure if it'll work. Angelina doubted, as she was with the children. It's getting dark already. Well, I have a good flash. I just couldn't come earlier, but I promised, didn't I? Where is Vivian? I'm here, a timid voice came from behind. Vivian, it turned out, was in the gazebo when she heard the familiar voice of her kind aunt. She couldn't see her clearly, but she remembered her voice well. In that evening, Miranda took a bunch of wonderful pictures, group shots, portraits, and most often, she focused on photographing Vivian. The girl seemed to thaw and posed happily for her kind aunt, laughing. And when Miranda was about to leave, the girl suddenly ran up to her and hugged her around the waist. "Sweetie, I have to go," Miranda whispered with sadness, leaning down to the girl. "But you'll come back, right?" Vivian asked hopefully. "Definitely," Miranda promised. She wanted so much to promise the little girl that she would soon take her away from there, but she was afraid of giving false hope to the little heart. What if they wouldn't allow her to adopt her? It was all so complicated, and in her case, even more so. And then Vivian was taken to a clinic in the capital city, where the best surgeons helped her regain and preserve her eyesight. The little girl returned to her hometown with Miranda. Miranda specifically flew there to bring the girl back, now on legal grounds. During the month Vivian was in the hospital, Miranda dealt with various paperwork, divorcing her husband and formalizing the adoption. Surprisingly, the guardianship authorities were accommodating and didn't create any obstacles. Miranda couldn't believe that everything would be so easy and simple. She didn't know the tiniest detail. Mr. Miller spoke up for her. It should be mentioned that Mr. Miller was deeply and seriously involved. He had fallen in love with Miranda, but he didn't rush to confess his feelings. He understood that the new editor had other priorities at the moment. Besides, she had divorced her husband, and after such a betrayal. The age difference also made him hesitant. Miranda was almost 20 years younger than him. How would she react to this? The thought of rejection was unbearably painful for him. A year passed. Miranda skillfully managed the magazine. Surprisingly, everything was going well for her. Vivian was already in first grade. The girl brought joy to Miranda. There were no more health problems. Of course, Vivian still wore glasses, but they were no longer as complicated as before, and the doctors assured them that her eyesight might even normalize with age. And this year was filled with joy and happiness, the happiness of motherhood. Miranda simply reveled in her new role and tried to make up for lost time with her daughter. They were together every minute. "Mama, you won't disappear, will you?" Vivian sometimes asked anxiously. "Never," Miranda smiled and hugged her dear little daughter tightly. "Yes, now we are together forever." They planned to celebrate New Year's together. They decorated the Christmas tree, Miranda set the table, Vivian tried to cut out snowflakes. The doorbell rang. Miranda opened it and was surprised. Santa Claus. But she didn't order him. She was completely caught off guard, missing this moment. From where? Who? Hello, the holiday wizard sang out. Here I am. Oh, Santa Claus. Vivian shouted upon seeing the guest. I've been waiting for you. I knew that, Santa Claus laughed. Will you tell me a poem? Of course. And Vivian eagerly began to recite while Miranda stood and watched. This bearded companion in a red robe reminded her of someone. And when Vivian ran into the room with a huge doll in her hands, Miranda finally mustered the courage to ask. Santa Claus, by any chance, are you my boss? Oh, busted, chuckled Mr. Miller and adjusted his beard slightly. What? Did you recognize me right away? Yes, I couldn't figure it out at all. I just guessed from your eyes. Happy New Year, Miranda. Happy New Year, Mr. Miller. They stood and looked at each other. A young woman in a kitchen apron and a magical character with a huge white beard. Silence stretched out. Well, I should probably go, Mr. Miller said shyly. And immediately he remembered and reached into his bag. Miranda, this is for you. He pulled out a small red box. Miranda opened it and blinked in astonishment. A diamond ring. Oh, it's so expensive. Why, she stammered. Miranda, you're worth more than all the diamonds in the world, Mr. Miller said quietly. Mr. Miller, I can't accept it. No. It's a New Year's gift from Santa Claus himself, the guest smiled. And suddenly, without expecting it himself, he pulled Miranda closer and kissed her. She responded. Unexpected, Miranda whispered. My first kiss with Santa Claus. Didn't it freeze you? No, I felt like I melted, Miranda admitted. Mr. Miller, I've realized for a long time that you mean a lot to me. You've done so much for us. I constantly think about you. Stay with us. Let's celebrate New Year together. And I had already lost hope, Miranda. I swear to you, you will never regret it. And they stood there, embracing each other, while Vivian watched them from the room with surprise. Mom is kissing Santa Claus. Is that even possible? Then Santa Claus magically disappeared, and Uncle Miller appeared in the apartment, whom the girls soon started to timidly call Dad. Meanwhile, in a distant city, another family celebrated New Year, a son and an elderly mother. She had recently suffered a stroke and could barely move. Everything annoyed her, the uncomfortable apartment, her alcoholic son, and the unfamiliar city they had to move to. Yes, they were Ms. Caroline and Kevin. Now they lived far away. They had to move here after Kevin's conversation with Mr. Miller. Their former boss didn't advise them to stay any closer, as neither the son nor the mother wanted to end up in prison, so they agreed. Kevin worked for a small newspaper. Ms. Caroline was sick. They often quarreled, reminiscing about their past life. Did they regret the past? No. They only pitted themselves and blamed Miranda, as well as Andrea, who also got lost somewhere in the vastness of the country. But they didn't even think about their granddaughter and daughter. She was a stranger to them and remained so. However, little Vivian didn't even know about their existence. She now had a loving family of her own.